before going into it, we'll talk about benefits, and that's what we're talking about this morning. But did you have any preconceived? Did you guys have any thoughts about it before doing it for the first time? Before going into counseling for the first time?
Me personally, I can do it by myself. What do I need help for?
Yeah.
I'm not like that at all.
Yeah. I can figure it out. I have Jesus and I have Bible and I have my own resources. Why do I need somebody else to tell me? I kind of had the idea of I need a big traumatic event in my life in order to need to talk to somebody.
A qualifier.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I really knew how subconscious it was, but it felt like it needed to be an illness or it needed to be a reactionary response. Hey, I don't go to the doctor unless I'm sick, which there you go. But it's but there's so much more to it than that. So all of us at one point or another have experienced counseling. What kind of pushed you through that door, that wall? What kind of got you there? For me, it was I had experienced a traumatic experience in my life, an abandonment in a relationship, betrayal in a relationship, and I was to the point where I couldn't function. I use the very analog example of my brain was full of file cabinets and someone opened all the drawers and just threw the papers everywhere and I couldn't think. I was frozen. And I had some really good friends, and it was actually the church that I was working for at the time that pointed me to someone and actually even paid my way. Wow. I was locked up and couldn't take next steps, didn't know where to turn. And like I said, just some friends really suggested, hey, it'd be really good for you to probably talk to somebody. And it was, we can talk about it more later, but it was life-changing for me.
Well, there's been a couple times, but the most recent was when we really started going through fertility. And that whole journey was just a lot to process. We weren't necessarily on the same page with it all either. And trying to figure out okay, this is something we want to do. Do you want to do? We struggled communicating together and just in the process learning about each other, but ourselves individually. And I was way more hesitant to do it. I think you were more of the, we should do this and get on the same page. And through it, we learned so much more about each other and how we communicate and what triggers each other. And it takes time too sometimes to find the right person, the right fit and things too. We just happened to find it quickly and then not so much later on. So
I mean, definitely it was a trauma, in my life. And for me, I think what really kind of just pushed me on in was, through that I just fell into a super deep depression. And, I'm typically a pretty positive person. And I saw, I didn't see it in myself until a lot of people came around me and told me. But at the same time, I finally realized in myself that I was somebody that I'm deeply not. And suicidal thoughts and, and that scared me. And I know I had some real great friends and family that said, maybe it's time you should, do this. And I think when I just kind of saw that, wow, this is not any part of me. I didn't recognize myself almost, I just didn't even recognize myself anymore. And so, so that was kind of my ultimate push to the door to go and, seek out somebody to talk with.
Yeah. So from the perspective of the stereotypical couch perspective, somebody who's, from those who are receiving counseling, what's that experience like? Can you kind of think of those first few times in there, or what you kind of went through? For me, when I went in, one of the first times I went in with, the counselor's name was Brian. And like just very disarming. And again, this isn't across the board. Like we talked about more chemistry, relationship. It just depends on everyone's approach. But he was really having a conversation with me, and it just really set a tone in there that it was. And his first start for me was just, he's like, how can I help you? Like, what do you need? Like, it wasn't like, okay, tell me about your childhood. Like it's all these things are running through your head beforehand. Like, okay, what are you gonna do? Like, do I need to lay down on this couch?
Right. Or you're almost like putting up your barriers, like you're going to war.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna try to like completely tear you down. But,
such an awesome point. It's just like, you don't have to feel like you have to be ready to just bear it all and open up, and like you don't have to
First
feel like,
question: what's your problem? Why are you here? Like, that's not
right.
It's not what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't think you have
Start
to.
with,
You have
what's
to
your name?
to enter into it. You don't have to feel like you're fully ready, and you can come guarded. Guarded is okay. Like there is an element of like, I'm going to guard my heart, and I don't know this person. They're a stranger.
I probably
even if-
sat there like this the whole first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, it was like really, like liberating almost in a way. I had been born and raised and married and worked all in the same town, up to that point. And so I always felt myself guarded when I talked to anybody, else. But when I went there, I was like, wow, she knows nothing about me or my past or my family or my extended family, my family's family. Like she knows nothing about this, and I can just say whatever I want with like I didn't feel there was any like judgment or preconceived notions about me or or, oh yeah, well, of course, that's how your mom is, or whatever it may be, I mean, it was just like, wow, like I can really just say whatever I want to you because like, and you don't care, in a way, like you don't really care about, like you don't have that, you want to just know about me,
Well, I think
like
that's
you.
a big difference talking to like somebody who's professional, who,
Yes.
even though they do it for a living, it's their job, like has that unique perspective than somebody who's a friend who's willing to go alongside you, which is also valuable, but there is something so valuable into somebody who is a fresh perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. Is unbiased in a way, but still has the intentionality and desire for what's best for you, but isn't bound by a family or a friendship relationship where you're going, you have to have a very deep relationship with someone to really, pull up the mirror against someone and potentially damage a relationship.
During my journey with Brian, as he was helping me navigate and try to reorganize the filing cabinets, was just I'm like, I'm like, I don't know why I'm acting this way. And he's like, and he didn't use some giant jargon, but he's just like, this is the way you're coping. And then he began to unpack what that looked like, and he goes, this is what you're equipped with right now. Like the hope is to, let's build that toolbox a little bit more and know how to use those tools. But he was right now, this is what you're using to compensate, to react to this trauma, this wound.
I mean, I think for me, like I said, my initial push was, just being in a really dark place and coming out, out of counseling. I just remember feeling like, oh, okay, and I remember when she even kind of got to the point where she's like, you know what, I don't think we need to meet weekly, and we kind of stretched it out our sessions, and then I kind of got to the point where I'm like, I kind of feel like I got this. Like I feel like I'm kind of back, like I can do this now, and she was just like, I see that as well, and I'm like, okay, and just feeling like, okay, I'm back, I can, think more clearly about things that, and just more logically or whatever. It was almost as a sense of like healing, I felt like a sense of healing on the other side of it.
Definitely left with a sense of peace, a little more overall, and I think also just doing some things together, left with tools on how to better communicate with each other and figuring out a lot more of each other's personality types and what makes us tick and what, and that was really helpful.
Like I think that's hopefully the goal, is that you go and you are better equipped from when you started.
Yeah.
And coming out of that, I felt that same thing where it was like, I'm thinking this, and he's like, yeah, I'm thinking this too. Like I think that you know, maybe we can touch base every once in a while, and there's something definitely to be said about, you know, continuing care and always just kind of like doing, you know, a checkup. But I think it's about that, equipping yourself for then when the next season, the next valley, the next trauma, the next whatever, that it's not as disruptive, you know, to you. But yeah, and you know, clearly we're on the other side of that infertility journey, and but now there's a whole nother, you know, emotionally charged season that we're in with
Toddlers.
2 little you know, kids, and it's,
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad I have those tools and
Right.
to
Exactly.
communicate with each other.
That's right.
Now, I think that's been so helpful.
Yeah. And that's what I mean, I took a lot of things out of it. For me, it was because I learned a lot about myself.
yeah,
And way more self-aware, and just the growth. You know, I talked earlier about coping and just, you know, having gone through things, you know, together. We've gone through some, you know, traumas, some trials, and just, as we talked about, like the tools, just feeling like I can cope with it, and I'm like, I know where that came from. Like that came out of that experience and that relationship I had with that counselor. I think there's a thing to the. You guys feel like the same, that you would recommend, and to like if someone's, you know, either going through something or that's something that you would.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I'd also say, like, I think if we had started with that last guy that we met with, and honestly, I don't even remember his name.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have wanted to continue.
Right.
Because there was just not a good chemistry with them. I would say, don't let that stop you.
Right.
Because it may not be the first fit.
Right.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
always marry the first guy you date, you know? So you gotta.
Sometimes you'll get that, oh well, you know, good for you, or you kind of get like when you share that with someone, it's like that. I think is what this conversation is all about. And it's like, don't wait for that thing. Like there's something to be said about, like, think about how different you were in the seasons that you were in, and when you were single, or you're in your 20s, and then you go into your 30s, and you're in a career, or you're just in between jobs. Like that's where I think the counseling world and being able to connect with that professional that can really help you assess and self-reflect, and equip you with those things, even if you're not experiencing a trauma or a great valley or something like that. That it's beneficial in those times when you're not in a valley, but it's it is in those as well.
But there is an element of you have to work on it. It's not a magic pill.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a magic pill.
They're
You
not
just go
gonna
in
say, this is what you need to do. This is what
Right.
you need to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I kind of expected
sometimes
that almost.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of thought, like, I remember the first couple times I left thinking, she didn't really give me, like, she didn't even tell me what I should do. Like, she didn't tell me anything. Like, she didn't tell me what I should do. What am I supposed to do? You know, and but then I, like, the more I kind of went through the process, I was like, oh, okay. Like, when I come to those, here's what I need to do. Here's what I need to change on my own.
Right.
You know, and I take ownership of it, was way better than somebody else saying, here's what you need to do.
Right, here's your
You know,
checklist.
Right.
yeah, here's your checklist.
Yeah.
You know,
You're using
but
your own toolbox.
yes,
They're just
yes,
pointing at some
yes,
of the tools
exactly.
you might need.
Yeah, or like, oh well, what about this? We thought, you know, and like kind of guiding you, which of course comes from that professional training that they
Right.
had. So like guiding you to make those decisions. You know, yeah, you take more of the ownership of kind of the process as well. And but yeah, it's, you know, you can't go in expecting them just to fix you. There you go.
Guys, this has been fun. Thanks
Yeah,
for being willing
absolutely.
to share and be open that way and vulnerable. And